Good evening, everybody. I'm Michael Loomis, your host here on Chew Digest Diaries, broadcasting live on YouTube. Here for another beautiful evening with you. And, it's been a pretty darn good day. Got registered for all of my classes for the fall semester of 2026 at ASU, or at least I got them in my shopping cart. And if I stay up till midnight tonight, I can click and roll. If not, I'll do that tomorrow first thing in the morning. Um, and today I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about oxalate, but also vitamin C. Vitamin C has been on my mind a lot lately because I have a feeling that starting out probably about 15 months ago, I had decided that I wanted to try out being a carnivore as far as my food intake, just to see what that experience would be like. And there were quite a few things that took a lot of getting used to, and fortunately, my body actually handled it pretty well. But after about 6 weeks, I just found myself thinking, no, this isn't for me. I mean, I get it. For some people, they enjoy it. Uh, One thing I do know is that it's not so much about just eating meat. It's actually more so about getting a sufficient amount of amino acids, but then getting the rest of your energy from fat and no carbohydrates. And so, what that would mean is for most people, that would mean eating a lot of beef, fatty beef. Now, if you're also somebody that uh, can tolerate lactose, that someone that's lactase consistent or persistent, that means you can have dairy in all of its wonderful forms, and that would that would make it easier for you to get more fat in your diet for sure. But there are plenty of people out there that are on a what you'd pretty much call a lion diet, which is just eating beef, steaks, and for them, that can solve a whole world of problems that are uh, related to problems that can be solved by limiting your ingredients. I mean, if you're eating only one ingredient per day and that was very fatty beef, well, you're going to experience a lot of recovery from a lot of different uh, potential problems that are related to your gut, because that, eating just beef like that is actually very easy on the gut. It would be pretty much what you would refer to as a zero residue diet, because there's no fiber whatsoever. And I know for a lot of people that is kind of a scary idea, because we are told we need to have plenty of fiber in our diet. Well, technically we don't, and there are actually certain health complications related to gut permeability and um, perforated gut and whatnot, that requires a zero residue diet for some period of time, and it's not problematic. Now, mind you, it is a little bit weird because your stool production goes down quite significantly. And at one point in time, I actually worked on a an article that was dealing with a zero residue diet. Matter of fact, I'm going to pull that up here real quick on my website, chewdigest.com. And I referred to that as, where is it? The Vanishing Act of Stool on a Carnivore Diet. And I'm just going to read that real quick because it's real short. And it goes like this. One of the more curious phenomena I observed, and that many others report, is the dramatic reduction of stool volume when shifting to a nearly all animal diet. At first glance, it might seem alarming, but when you consider the digestive mechanisms and microbial ecology involved, it begins to make perfect sense. Animal based foods are remarkably bioavailable. Proteins, fats, and micronutrients from meat, eggs, and dairy are completely absorbed with astonishing efficiency in the small intestine. Unlike plant matter, which often contains insoluble fiber and resistant starches that escape digestion, animal foods leave very little residue. So, if there's almost nothing left to pass through the colon, why would we expect much stool at all? The answer lies not just in digestion, but in the invisible world of microbes. It's estimated that up to 80% of stool mass is composed of dead microorganisms. That's bacteria that thrive on fermenting indigestible plant fibers. Remove the fiber and you remove their fuel. Remove their fuel and their population shrinks. Fewer microbes mean less turnover, less biomass, and ultimately less stool. It's not a dysfunction, it's metabolic efficiency. This shift this shift transforms the colon from a bustling fermentation chamber into a quieter transit zone. The microbial landscape adapts. Fiber loving species like bifidobacteria they fade, while bile tolerant strains may gain a foothold. But even they don't flourish without substrate. The gut becomes a leaner ecosystem and the rhythm of elimination slows. Many carnivore dieters report going every other day or even less frequency with no discomfort. As long as stools remain soft and easy to pass, this is not constipation. It is a reflection of reduced waste. Why? Because we are digesting everything that goes inside of us when we are on a carnivore diet. Of course, this transition isn't without nuance. The absence of fiber means fewer short chain fatty acids like butyrate, which normally support gut lining integrity and motility. Hydration, salt intake, and dietary fat become more important to maintain balance. And for those tracking their own adaptation, it's worth noting how stool consistently, satiety, and energy levels evolve over time. In essence, the carnivore gut is a study in minimalism. Less input, less output, but no less function. It's a metabolic pivot that invites us to rethink what elimination really means, not just the disposal of waste, but the echo of microbial life shaped by what we choose to feed it or not. Anyways, that was a lot of words. So, for people that do choose to go on a carnivore diet, what they're going to notice is that um, they're basically going to go down to a zero, a very low stool production, which there are a lot of people out there that are vegan or raw vegan or even what you call frugivores, people that eat fruit only, that insist that this means that people that are on a carnivore diet are extremely um, constipated that meat is rotting in their gut, and the reality is that's just not the case. That's not how the human digestive tract works. And those who have gone to university that have studied upper division nutrition and anatomy and physiology, they understand how it works, and they would never suggest such a thing. But people that are just influencers tend to unfortunately get this strange idea that meat just sits around in your gut and rots and ferments and does all kinds of weird stuff, when in reality, when you're on a carnivore diet, you're basically, there's nothing that goes past your small intestine, or very, very, very little into your colon, and pretty goes from there pretty much straight out. So literally, you'll have a gut transition time from nose to tail of under 24 hours. And it's not stagnation, it's not constipation. There's nothing in there to constipate. There's nothing leaving the small intestine to go into the large intestine to cause constipation. For that, you have to have fiber. And to get fiber in there, that means you have to be eating plant material. I think if you use common sense, you should be saying, yeah, I get it. But unfortunately, some people that hold to a vegan, raw, whole food, plant-based diet, they really hold tightly to their ideals and their idealism versus, studying the human body and looking at it from a biological perspective, and through studying anatomy and physiology to better understand that we're carnivores. I'm sorry, we're omnivores that have the ability to eat pretty much whatever we want. I mean, if you want to be an omnivore that eats only fruit, go ahead, give it a try. I did it for a long number of months. It ain't gonna kill you. You'll be hungry all the time for sure. If you are gonna do that, I highly recommend rinsing your mouth out after you're done eating, because of the higher level of acids and sugar that are entering and going through your mouth and having some possible negative effects on your teeth and because of the acids. Um, you're likely going to, over a short period of time, 6 months, a year, 2 years, you can get away with just eating all manner of fruit. But eventually, I think, most people get to a point where their body has had enough of that, and their body tells them, you need to do something different, because there are certain nutrients that I'm missing, certain electrolytes that I'm missing that I can't get on a fruit only diet. And that's what happened to me. And so, along with taking these classes at university, what I discovered is that the best way to understand the human body is that we are an omnivore. We can pretty much eat anything that we choose to, but understand that our body has some specific needs that are based on things that you can't really fudge. And number one, I've talked about this here recently, is electrolytes. They're just a certain amount of potassium, sodium, chloride, magnesium, calcium, and phosphate that you need, that you can't get all of those things on a fruit only diet. You can't get all of those things from a strictly lion diet or carnivore diet only. And there needs to seemingly be some variety among all kinds of foods. And that's the only answer I can really come up with. Now, I do tend to eat mostly animal based, along with dairy, but I also incorporate citrus in my diet because, well, frankly, vitamin C. And that's what this video is named, is vitamin C, because that's part of what I want to get into. But regarding vitamin C, I was doing some writing and research on this morning, and I had ChatGPT uh, create an essay for me explaining all of the details about vitamin C and why it's important. And I'm just going to read that to you. So if you see me looking over here, you know what's going on. I didn't have time to script this and memorize it and whatnot, but I will probably put the whole text of this down below the video so you can read it if you want. And it goes a little something like this. Vitamin C is often thought of as the orange vitamin, something simple you get from fruit to avoid getting sick. In reality, it plays a far more important role in human biology. Vitamin C is essential because humans cannot produce it on their own. Unlike most animals, it must be obtained through food. Without enough vitamin C, the body cannot maintain connective tissue, protect cells from oxidative stress, support immune function, or efficiently produce energy. Pretty important stuff. Severe deficiency leads to scurvy, but long before that stage, subtle symptoms can appear that reflect weakened tissue repair and reduced resilience. And water, too. Vitamin C is required for the formation and stability of collagen, the structural protein that gives strength and elasticity to skin, blood vessels, tendons, ligament, and bone matrix. When vitamin C intake is too low, blood vessels become fragile, bruising occurs easily, gums may bleed, wounds heal slowly, and joints can feel stiff or painful. Because collagen is constantly being repaired and remodeled, vitamin C is needed daily, not just during illness. It also helps the body absorb iron, supports immune cell function, and helps produce carnitine, a molecule necessary for converting fat into usable energy. Low vitamin C levels can therefore contribute to fatigue, poor recovery from activity, and decreased endurance. Only a small amount of vitamin C is required to prevent deficiency. Historical evidence shows that about 10 milligrams per day is enough to prevent scurvy. However, this level supports survival rather than optimal health. Think someone that's sedentary, they could get by with eating a single orange every day and they'd be just fine. Most health authorities recommend about 75 to 90 milligrams per day to support normal physiological function. Higher intake in the range of 150 to 300 milligrams per day better supports connective tissue repair, immune resilience, and recovery from physical stress. Needs may increase during illness, chronic inflammation, psychological stress, smoking, or intense physical activity, because vitamin C is used more rapidly during oxidative stress and tissue repair. There is often confusion about the difference between natural vitamin C, the kind you find in fruit and some vegetables, and synthetic ascorbic acid. Chemically, they are identical molecules. The body cannot distinguish between vitamin C derived from fruit and vitamin C produced through fermentation in a laboratory. However, whole foods provide vitamin C with a complex nutritional environment that includes things like flavonoids, polyphenols, potassium, water, and other compounds that support antioxidant activity and may improve vitamin C retention in tissues. Whole foods also provide vitamin C in steady amounts that are absorbed efficiently. Supplements can still be useful for ensuring adequate intake, especially when dietary intake is limited or physiological needs are elevated. Think about this before I finish the rest of this. If you're somebody like myself that gets out and walks like 45 miles a day, you're going to be somebody that needs to get a little bit more vitamin C. So whether that's eating more fruit or taking a supplemental vitamin C, that's really going to be up to you. Uh, as was mentioned here, there are certain constituents that you're going to find that are naturally paired up in, let's say, for example, an orange, that are very possibly, and I would even likely suggest, are a necessary part of the necessity in the digestive process. In other words, you can take a supplemental vitamin C, but it's not going to be as efficient because your body's not saying, just what I was missing, supplemental vitamin C. No, your body was missing eating produce. It was missing eating foods that naturally contain vitamin C. We need vitamin C, and when you get it in a form that you find in produce, in natural, whole, single ingredient foods, your body says, I recognize this for what it is, and it processes it simply, easily, with little difficulty. Now, mind you, supplemental vitamin C, your body's not going to have a hard time assimilating it. I'm just not sure at this point in time in my life that it's the best way to go about getting it. Back to the text. Vitamin C also interacts with glucose metabolism. Because vitamin C and glucose share similar transport pathways into cells, chronically high blood sugar levels can reduce vitamin C uptake into tissues. This may help explain why people with diabetes or chronically high carbohydrate intake often show lower vitamin C status. At the same time, lower carbohydrate intake may slightly reduce oxidative stress, which could modestly reduce vitamin C requirements, although connective tissue repair needs remain unchanged. And I think this is partially why people can go carnivore for a long time or even lion diet for a long time and not see any major problems, but eventually the piper will come for its payment. That I'm pretty darn sure of. Another important aspect of vitamin C metabolism is its relationship to oxalate. Here we are again back at the whole oxalate thing. A small portion of vitamin C is converted into oxalate during normal metabolism. At typical intake levels, this contribution is minor. However, chronic high-dose supplementation above about 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams per day can increase urinary oxalate levels, which may raise kidney stone risk in susceptible individuals. This guy. For most people, dietary oxalate from high oxalate foods contributes far more oxalate than vitamin C metabolism. Moderate intake levels below 500 milligrams per day provide benefits while minimizing this concern. Vitamin C intake also affects how the body responds to stress. During infection, inflammation, injury, or intense exercise, vitamin C is used to neutralize reactive oxygen species and support immune function and tissue repair. This is why requirements increase during periods of stress or recovery. Even moderate daily activities such as long walks place repeated stress on connective tissue in the feet, tendons, and joints. Adequate vitamin C supports collagen repair and durability in these structures, helping maintain long-term mobility. Signs of adequate vitamin C intake includes resilient skin, quick wound healing, healthy gums, strong recovery from physical activity, steady energy levels, and resistance to frequent illness. Early signs of insufficient intake may include easy bruising, slow healing, gum sensitivity, persistent fatigue, tendon soreness, or frequent infections. Severe deficiency produces more dramatic symptoms such as bleeding gums, loose teeth, and extreme weakness, although these are rare today. Because vitamin C is water soluble, excess amounts are generally excreted in urine. However, very large supplemental doses can overwhelm absorption pathways and cause digestive discomfort, such as diarrhea, cramping, or bloating. Long term megadoses may increase urinary oxalate and kidney stone risk in susceptible individuals. Most people experience optimal benefits without side effects in the range of 150 to 300 milligrams per day, with higher intake used temporarily during periods of increased physiological stress. Vitamin C is abundant in many foods, and oranges are not the richest source. Bell peppers, kiwi, strawberries, papaya, broccoli, and raw fermented vegetables provide substantial amounts. Heat and long storage reduce vitamin C content, so fresh foods preserve the most. A varied diet that includes fresh vegetables and fruits can easily provide sufficient vitamin C for health and tissue resilience. In the larger picture, vitamin C is not simply a vitamin taken to prevent illness. It is a foundational nutrient that supports connective tissue integrity, energy metabolism, immune defense, and recovery from stress. Maintaining adequate intake over time supports the body's ability to repair itself, maintain structural strength, and remain resilient through life. Okay, now back to me. Um, what this means to me is that, at some point in time, we became unlike most other animals that create their own version of vitamin C internally. At some point, we either we've never had the ability to synthesize vitamin C internally, or at some point, because of access to vegetables and fruit that contain vitamin C, we were able to get enough supplementary vitamin C that way that our body basically said, I don't need to synthesize what we call vitamin C anymore. So I'm just going to stop doing it. And after enough generations, eventually we lost the ability altogether. That is one of the suggestions. And that may be the case, yet seemingly there are, some people like you might look at the Inuit people that are up near the North Pole. Well, where are they ever going to get fruit or vegetables that contain vitamin C? Like I said, the amount that you need to maintain a scurvy-free life is only 10 milligrams per day, which is almost nothing. That's like an ounce of orange juice per day. And so if you're eating a diet that pretty much consists of, eating seals all the time up near the North Pole, you're not going to be eating a lot of sugar in your diet. So you're also not going to need much vitamin C. However, you will notice that glucose or sugar in fruits and vegetables in fruits that contain vitamin C, the two kind of go hand in hand. So the question is the vitamin C a part of Mother Nature's way of correcting problems that are related to overconsumption of sugar? Well, maybe. And so if you can live a life where there's absolutely no sugar going in, the physiological needs of vitamin C would be significantly lower, which again can explain why carnivores, people that are eating only, tomahawk steaks or whatever, can go a long time without vitamin C supplementation. For myself, I do, if I can get my hands a hold of some really good oranges, great. I'll have those. But in the meantime, I just actually take it easy and I have a little bit of orange juice every day. And I will actually take, although I'm very much anti-supplement, I know I'm also a good hypocrite here in that a I'm currently taking a single dose of ascorbyl palmitate. I like bulk supplements. I'm not supported by them. I'm just one of their consumers. They make an ascorbyl palmitate supplement that you can take. It's a fat soluble form of vitamin C. It stays in your body longer than if you get your vitamin C from an orange, because the vitamin C you get in fruit is water soluble and it goes in and it gets consumed or it goes out pretty darn quickly. The fat soluble version, it will stay in your system quite a bit longer. And so I'm actually trying an experiment where first thing in the morning I get up and I have an 8-ounce glass of tangerine juice, which is tasty. I also add some electrolytes to that. And I will then also have another 8-ounce glass in the afternoon with some more electrolytes. And then at bedtime, about 9 o'clock in the evening, I will have a 12-ounce glass of whole milk with a tablespoon of whole heavy cream, which is pure fat, and then one of these ascorbyl palmitate supplemental vitamin C. And that way, what that does is that supposedly, scientifically, on paper, should improve my body's ability to repair itself overnight when we're asleep, when our body is doing the repair work. And so I'm experimenting with that right now. And it really should, like I said, in my mind, it should make a quite a difference, because it's giving our body exactly what it needs when we need it for that duration, when we're not going to be getting any vitamin C intake while we're asleep for, some 7.5 to 9 hours. I was also going to cover a little bit more about oxalate again. I think I will cover that tomorrow because we've been talking enough, or I have been talking enough, and I need to get going here. I have a few other things I need to do before I wind down for the night. But I also did throw some links in the note section about oxalates that you can do a little bit of research if you'd like. That would be a few articles, one residing in eMedicine, medscape.com, and two of them through two different publications through the National Institutes for Health. And I will see you guys tomorrow, and we'll talk a little bit more about oxalate along with the progress I've been making with my daily walks. Now, I started walking back in September every day, and I'm almost at 500 miles now. And got myself some great shoes that are fabulous for walking in. I'll share with you a little bit more about those and why I chose those shoes in particular, even though they're a little bit more expensive. The right shoe can make any walking a whole lot more pleasurable. Anyways, signing off for the night. It's Wednesday, February 25th, 2026 at 7:40 p.m. in the evening here in Southern California. I'll see you tomorrow, and have a good night, and I'll be back.